Now let's discuss giving and receiving feedback. Now, communication as a process will be incomplete if there is no feedback. Why? It's because if there's no feedback, the sender or the communicator will not know if the receiver has received the message, or if he or she has received the message, then has the communication process occurred successfully? Have they understood what was being said? Which is why we need to learn and understand feedback. So, in order to understand feedback more, let's understand first what is the purpose of feedback. Now, let's ask ourselves this question: how can we expect people to change and develop if they don't know what they need to change? I'll say that again. How can we expect people to change and improve and develop if they don't know what they need to change? If your colleague or if your subordinate is doing something wrong, and if he isn't aware that he's doing something wrong, how will he change? You need to give him or her a feedback. That's how they will understand. Alright? Good. So, feedback, reality versus perceptions. Now, most people really want to know how they are doing. Absolutely. So, don't you go to your boss and show your work and say, how is it looking? Right? So, we want to know how are we doing, so in order to improve or to figure out better ways to do it. Right? So, people really want to know if others like what they are doing. Because if others are not liking it, they might change it so that people like it. Obviously, because we work for people, right? We work for company, we work for organization which is run by human beings, and our work will be appreciated only if it is liked by people. So we want to know if what we did is right and is being liked by people. And people also want to know if something could be done more effectively, or if boundaries are being overstepped, right? So if you're working under someone and you need to know and you would want to know if you can do the same thing more effectively, so that you get better results. Alright, and there are boundaries, there are limitations, and are you overstepping it? Example, if you are allotted a budget and you're working, and then how would you know if you are overstepping the budget? Somebody needs to tell you that, right? So people would want to know these things. Okay, so what feedback is not supposed to be? One, it is not an end in itself. Feedback is just to improve, and it's always an ongoing thing till the time you get perfect in something that you're doing. Feedback is not a solution to performance problems or issues. Feedback is just a feedback to get you on the right track. Praise or blame, approval or disapproval. Feedback is far above than these things. Its feedback is not praising, feedback is not blaming, it's not approval of something or disapproval of something. It is just an indication of how you performed. Okay? Now, what are the rules for sharing feedback? We've got Brown and Lay's feedback rules. So there are certain aspects that you need to keep in mind. Number one, it has to be timely, selective, balanced suggestions rather than prescriptions. It has to be descriptive, it should be specific or focused, and should be directed towards behavior that needs to be changed and not towards the person. Okay, I'll explain it to you one by one. Number one, it should be timely. Give as close to the event as possible. Because what happens is, if somebody did something wrong and you want to give them a feedback, and give it as soon as you can, as close to the event as it can be, because later they might forget, or later it might not have the same impact. Okay, so it should be timely, should be given when the mistake was done, or when something nice was done. Okay, so it should be given on a very timely basis. Two, it has to be selective, addressing one or two key issues rather than too many at once. When you give a feedback, you can't sit like with a diary and give them 10 different feedbacks on 10 different things. Just give feedback on one or two things at a time, because then they will not be able to remember so much, and it will be very difficult to work on so many things at a single point in time. It should be balanced. It should include good as well as bad feedback if there is. Next is that you should always give suggestions for improvement, not prescriptions or orders. When you give a feedback, just tell them how can you do it better, as in you as in they. How can they do it better, and not give not give prescription that this is what you have to do, or don't give orders, because that way, remember I told you, giving orders is like a verbal attack, okay, and which is a barrier to communication. People don't like it, and you are actually showing authority, which is in the best way to get things done from people. All right, so it has to be descriptive, and second, it has to be specific. So descriptive is non-judgmental, based on behavior, not personality. So if someone's late, don't blame them saying that you were always late and you do this and you do that. Instead, you can ask them, I see that you're coming late. What is actually stopping you from being punctual? That way you're directing it to the behavior, not the personality, or not at the person directly. Be specific and focused. In order to focus development feedback, be specific and focused. All right, avoid personal comments. If you have any personal grudges against that person, please keep it aside. Avoid personal comments and avoid mixed messages. Just be very specific and give the task related feedback. But before you give the feedback, ask yourself these questions. 1. What is my intention behind giving this person this feedback? Why am I giving this feedback? If there's no strong reason, then don't do it at all. Okay, so ask yourself, why am I giving this feedback? What is it that I really want him or her to improve? 2, how am I feeling about giving it? You have to see, how am I feeling? Are you feeling embarrassed if you have to be in such a situation? Or am I feeling angry about it? Or I'm feeling disheartened about it? What is it? How are you feeling? And then how is the other person feeling or going to feel when you give that feedback? When you have these things in your mind, you can give the feedback accordingly. And remember, if they've had stressful days or one of those days when things don't go right, then in that case, it is better to not give the feedback and keep it for another day, because then they will not be in the right frame of mind, and then they will not be able to work on it, and there are chances that they will not take it positively if they've had a bad day, or may not be able to actively participate in the discussion that is happening with regards to feedback. Listen carefully to what is being said. People should be receptive to feedback and see it as helpful. Always, I've seen that people get defensive when they are given a feedback and try to justify. Please don't. Just be receptive and take it. The reason that they're giving it, because they want you to improve. Okay, and don't reject the feedback. No, I don't think I did that. No, that's not right. Unless there is an issue and you have to say no to it, because otherwise there'll be a problem. But if there's no problem, and if it is given, which normally is the case, if it is given for your betterment, then don't reject it. Accept the feedback and start working on it. Next is, if you get a positive feedback, be happy and accept it. Okay, and don't say no, I tried my best. No, you're not supposed to do that. Please take it as a compliment if you can, and accept it. Same is the case with negative feedback. Don't reject it, accept it, and take it as a challenge and work on it. Next thing that I want you to know is, please do not argue or being defensive. Like I said, a lot of people just reject the idea of getting a feedback, and the first thing that they do is deny it. And if they don't deny it, they get into argue and justifying themselves. No, this is not what I was trying to do. This is what I was trying to do, and that isn't right. Now, rules for receiving feedback. Ask questions to clarify fully and seek examples if necessary. So remember that. If you think that you don't really understand what is being said, or if you think that what the person is saying isn't right, don't think and suspend the judgment. Ask them questions to understand fully. Or there may be times when there are leaders who may not be very good communicators, but they definitely want you to improve. But it's just that they're not finding right words at times and to convey it to you, because remember, giving feedback is equally harder. So remember, ask for clarifications, ask questions, ask them to give more examples so that you understand things. What else? The receiver shouldn't feel that the giver is the enemy. So here it's the giver's responsibility that they create an environment which is conducive, and where a good feedback can be given, which can be progressive and help receiver of the feedback improve. Now let's talk about the receiver. The receiver should, one, appreciate the giver of the feedback. Why? Is because they're taking the pain and the initiative to give a feedback so that you can improve. Understand that it's not always easy, and these days people don't care about each other. They are just busy being busy. They are just busy living their own life. Nobody wants to sit down with you and give you feedback. If they're doing it, please be very thankful to them. In the end, I would like to say that if you can imbibe all these teachings, and if you can start putting this into practice, trust me, you will be very effective as a communicator. With this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you very much.